Well, I don't know if you can call it the Mayfield miracle. You might call it Sooner magic. One word is what I'm going to call this. Improbable. If I use two words, improbable win. Yes, Rocky Toppers. That's what the Sooners are after the incredible comeback, down 17 points early in the second quarter. And if you want to use another one-word phrase, how about a Houdini? That's right, it was like magic, okay? Houdini style. 31-24 double overtime, not only beating a top 25 team and beating an SEC team at that, but for the Sooners winning in front of the biggest crowd they've ever played in front of in school history. And I'll tell you what, the fans in Knoxville, Tennessee at Neyland Stadium, they did not make it easy for the Sooners. They're to be commended for the amount of support that they poured in for their volunteers. I'm not sure if you saw the game on TV or if you were at Neyland Stadium, but if you looked at how that stadium was choreographed, it was brilliant, a fantastic idea to have alternating colors from section to section around the stadium. In other words, one section white shirts, and then the next one orange, and then they kind of they rotated it all the way around. So the color scheme was phenomenal, a beautiful sight for college football. And for the Sooners, the first 20 minutes of this game, there was nothing beautiful about it. In fact, it was a horror show on both sides of the ball. I'll tell you that right now. It was bad. And the Sooners were darn lucky they weren't down by more than just 17 points. You give Tennessee so much credit early in this game for not only the way that they played up front and really shutting down OU's ground game for basically 3/4 of the game when you think about it, but also too, Tennessee made some defensive adjustments as far as pass defense. Remember, Bowling Green just absolutely treated that Tennessee D like shredded wheat, throwing for over 420 yards the week before. Well, Todd Kelly Jr., who shocked a lot of Tennessee fans by playing last week when medically he probably shouldn't have, played about a half in that game, was in better shape this time and played the whole game, and he picked off both of Baker Mayfield's passes. So that was one thing. But also, too, I think there was a lot of adjusting that Tennessee did between that game and this one, and I think they got to the quarterback more often in this game than they did against Bowling Green in the opener. And that really showed because Tennessee's secondary really did an Al B. Shore. In other words, they looked like night one week, and then today it looked like day. It was much, much better by them, and they almost won the game as a result. Tennessee was in complete control, offensively for about the first quarter and change. Offensively for Oklahoma, they went nowhere at all. And you could tell that the youth of the Oklahoma offensive line showed against a veteran Tennessee defensive front. With the guys that they have up front for Tennessee, the veterans like Majit and also two like Barnett, who, by the way, ended up with 15 tackles, and also other Tennessee defensive members like Reeves Maben, who was everywhere on the field tonight for the Volunteers, 21 tackles, 13 of them solo. Tennessee's defense played a heck of a lot better than I thought that they would during this game. I think so many people thought this was going to be a high-scoring game in terms of the regulation part of the game, the first 60 minutes, and it ended up being 17-17. But when it was 17-0, I don't know how the average fan felt about this game, especially if you're an Oklahoma fan. 17-0, 12:09 to go before halftime. I'm not thinking, is Oklahoma going to come back and win? I'm thinking, is Oklahoma even going to score points? Because, again, their offense was that frustrating to watch. Bad blocking, no running. Baker Mayfield was misfiring on passes, and the ones that he was hitting, some of those were drop balls. So it's like Murphy's Law. Anything that could have gone wrong in that first half for Oklahoma absolutely did. So what led to this comeback, okay? What led to the Sooners finally able to get over the hump? You might say, well, the offense finally got into gear in the fourth quarter. That's part of it. But to me, the defense for the Sooners won this game. After a bad start, and after Tennessee, had their way the first quarter and probably 5 minutes, we saw Oklahoma get more aggressive, and we saw that front apply more pressure. And the play of the outside linebacking crew was terrific. Eric Stryker, 3 solo tackles, 6 total, and Devontae Bond, one of the unsung heroes of this game, in the first half alone, his performance was impactful. For the game, he ended up, get this, with 5 tackles, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble. And this is from a guy that, again, doesn't get a lot of headlines, doesn't even start, but Devontae Bond was impactful on this night. Now, Maud Thomas from his defensive back spot, 7 solo tackles, 11 for the game, and Dominic Alexander, 4 solos and 9 tackles altogether. The Sooners' defense late in the first half and in that second half shut Tennessee down. That's right. After the 17-0 lead, Tennessee didn't score again until overtime number 1. Josh Dobbs, who threw for 50% passing, 6 of 12 in the first half, only had 7 of 19 in the second. A lot of that's the pressure that OU applied. It was a different Sooner defense that made the Tennessee offense look a little more ordinary in that second half as opposed to what we saw in the first half, in which the Volunteers really had OU back on their heels, and you saw it with 3 scores in the first 20 minutes for Tennessee, including 2 touchdowns from those 3 scores. But the defense, again for the Sooners, kept Oklahoma in this game. It kept the Sooners in this game, and in the fourth quarter, Sooners finally were able to make runs that in the past Tennessee was able to contain, and for the most part, OU was able to establish a running game. Some broken tackles, and also, too, we saw Tennessee have a difficult time containing Sterling Sheperd. And then once that thing got down to 17-10, after an 80-yard, 14-play drive for the Sooners, Tennessee's offense again couldn't go anywhere. Another 3 and out. I mean, Tennessee's offense kind of looked like Oklahoma's offense did for the first 3 quarters. I mean, Oklahoma's offense the first 3 quarters, really plagued by the field position game, in which Tennessee's punting was a big part of that. Sooners' first 5 drives from their own 25, own 25, own 6, own 25, and own 25. And by the way, the possessions 2, 3, and 4 for Oklahoma were 3 and outs. Well, Tennessee was kind of doing what Oklahoma did in that first half. The Volunteer defense, really did the job on Oklahoma in half number 1 and for the third quarter with 2 interceptions. But in the fourth quarter, the Sooners were able to sustain long drives, dominate time of possession. In the fourth quarter, they held the ball 11 and a half minutes in the fourth compared to Tennessee only getting it 3 and a half minutes in that fourth quarter. Big key there because they kept Tennessee's defense on the field, and as well as Tennessee's defense played in those first 3 quarters, first 3 and a half for that matter, they might have shown signs of wearing down a little bit. But that big possession in the game, middle of the fourth quarter, or about probably 5 minutes left, and the Sooners had the ball at their own 40, needing 60 yards to tie the game up. Third down, which had plagued Oklahoma, 3 quarters of the game, was golden for the Sooners. They ended up converting 9 of 20 on third down, but the percentage was way lower than that before the fourth. Mayfield got pressured a lot, but in the fourth quarter, he was able to flush out of it, including a key third down play, in which I don't know how Tennessee missed the sack, but Mayfield flushed out, throwing on the run and converting, and then, of course, a controversial pass interference penalty in which the ball looked like it was a little too high, but a flag got thrown. Tennessee got whistled for interference. By the way, Tennessee was just as plagued with penalties as well. OU ended up with 9 penalties. Tennessee, by the way, ended up with 10. And then the brilliant fade pass from Mayfield to Sheperd in the end zone, tying the game up late. And by the way, how big were penalties? Well, Tennessee had a big kickoff return near the 50 that got wiped out because of a penalty. Who knows how the game might have ended up as a result. But at that point, 17-17, considering where Oklahoma was at the hour before, down 14 points in an offense that was in quicksand, 17-17 overtime, you kidding me? You take it in a heartbeat. And that opening overtime, again, give credit to Jalen Hurd of Tennessee, who played his absolute guts out, got the touchdown to give Tennessee the lead in overtime, and OU had to respond. And on 4th and goal from the 1, Mayfield kept it himself, got in nearly untouched from shotgun formation after faking the handoff to Pirine, and tied again. And this time OU got the ball to start overtime number 2. Sterling Sheperd, fourth quarter, and in overtime was big time, showing why he's one of the most dangerous receivers around. 7 catches, 74 yards, including 2 touchdowns. The game winner, add that as well, 31-24 OU. And Zach Sanchez, a brilliant play, getting right in front of the receiver on 3rd and long for the Volunteers with the game sealer, the interception. OU overcame the big deficit, not playing well in the beginning, overcoming how well Tennessee was playing, and overcoming a very loud environment that at one point, that decibel level for Neyland Stadium was well over 110. Yeah, that's like airport loud right there. Sooners overcame all of it, and 31-24, 2-0 for the Sooners. And, for Tennessee, despite the loss, this Tennessee team, boy, are they better than last year's team or what? More athletic, stronger, faster, more experienced, okay? They just have to learn how to win games like this against the top 25. And now they've lost 28 out of their last 29 against ranked competition. So, maybe it's just a matter of time before that happens. The good news for the Volunteers is that they play in the East Division of the SEC. Do I think they could beat Georgia? I think it's possible. I mean, they'll get them at home later in the year. They got to handle, of course, Florida and the likes of Tennessee. I mean, the likes of Missouri, of course, too. I don't think they could beat Alabama and Alabama, but I think the rest of the games on there, they got a sporting shot and they're trying to get a W. After Arkansas lost to Toledo today, you got the Razorbacks coming into Tennessee soon. So, the Volunteers could still have one heck of a season, and don't be surprised if they overtake the Bulldogs to win the SEC East and have a shot at maybe playing Bama or Auburn or the West representative. So, Butch Jones has them going in the right direction. They just got to learn how to finish what they start in ball games. And for the Sooners, this win is big for their confidence. It shows that, they can come back and win. It shows that Bob Stoops still knows how to win, games on a big level. Now, it doesn't mean that the Sooners are all the way back, okay? It doesn't mean that you can punch their ticket for a Big 12 championship and go to the college football playoff. It doesn't mean that at all. They're certainly going to have their share of mammoth games coming up later in the year against against Baylor, and of course TCU, but they'll see both those teams in the month of November. Sooners are going to be favored in every game that they play all the way up to November. So, got to watch out for West Virginia and Texas, and of course Kansas State as well. But the Sooners, with a victory like this, can feel very good about how the month of September can end and how October can go. And of course November, that's a whole other game we'll have to wait and see. Again, Sooner Magic. Again, Mayfield Miracle. I call it an improbable win, but a win regardless. And hey, I was wrong. I picked Tennessee to win this by a slim margin. It was close, but the Sooners got the job done. As Bob Stoops would say, in the end, 31-24, double overtime, heck of a game by Tennessee. But give credit to Oklahoma. They were great when they had to be. Boomer Sooner.